We've heard how betrayal is something that looks like a friend, a lover, or even a family. And there's no better way to explain the pain of betrayal and the twisted mind of a human being than through this chilling story. Sit back as we unravel the story of the daughter who brutally murdered her parents and then proceeded to live with their bodies. Welcome to the British village of Great Baddow, Essex, a place that is mostly known to have some of the quietest streets you'll ever walk through. In this town, you'll spend hours strolling through lanes filled with well-kept houses. One of the very best things about this town is how strong its sense of community can be. For as long as 4 years, neighbors on one particular street had absolutely no reason to doubt the town's safety. There wasn't a single known fact about this town that would have you suspecting the dark secret hidden behind the closed doors of a well, a modest home as it appeared. But as this story unfolds, you and I will start to realize that modest is quite the opposite of a word you'd use to describe the horrors this home hides. Trust us when we tell you this. We're about to unravel a secret so disturbing it would shake the people of the town to their core. This is where the story of Virginia McCulla begins. Now, Virginia was just another girl for all the townspeople knew. A daughter who lived with a secret. How dark was this secret? Let's just say it's not your average woman hiding their secret partner from their parents. But oh, she was hiding something all right. She was hiding people. Who could these people be, you might wonder? Well, these people were none other than her parents. Worst part? They weren't alive. Miss Virginia here had hidden the bodies of her murdered parents, not just for a day or two, but for as long as 4 years. Now, how on earth did she pull that off? This woman deceived everyone around her to protect her lies. But what kind of sick lies could a girl this young be hiding? What on earth could drive a person to kill their parents and live with their remains in the very house they grew up in? And as disgusting as that already sounds, how did she keep the secret for so long? To the outside world, the McCulla family seemed like just another one of those ordinary families in the neighborhood. John and Lois McCulla were known to be loving parents and devoted grandparents too. John, a little elderly, had retired from being a university lecturer. He was not a man of many words and was a quiet intellectual who took great pleasure in his interests. He enjoyed his hobbies like golf and snooker. Lois was also a lovely woman who was known around town for how kind she was. She was a family person, a woman who cherished being around her family members and adored her grandchildren. She would make the best of every little moment she could get with both her daughter and her little ones. But within all this innocence lies one evil mind. Behind this whole facade, a sinister plan was brewing in the mind of their daughter Virginia, our main character of discussion here. Virginia, who was 36 at the time, was caught in a web of lies and financial desperation. A financial desperation so bad, it drove her to kill her parents. Virginia already had a horrible reputation and a history of making poor financial decisions. She was not one to know how to manage her finances and landed in a debt so deep it got her to do some horrific things. And this very debt was a secret she kept hidden from her parents through lie after lie and manipulation. This incident began in June, back in the year 2019. This is when John and Lois McCulla went missing. Not just for a few days. They mysteriously vanished and no one in the neighborhood could figure out where they had gone or what happened to them. I'm sure by now you'd be able to connect the dots. At first, friends and family, though concerned, weren't too worried. They took Virginia's word for it when she told everyone her parents were busy and that they were out having a good time traveling. And when that lie wouldn't suffice the curiosity of the neighborhood, she would state that they were simply too unwell to pay a visit back. But over time, people began to notice that Virginia's reasons were elaborate and changed very frequently. Something felt very off about how it was excuse after excuse and lie after lie, but there was no sign of her parents returning home. According to one of the detectives involved in the investigation, Detective Superintendent Rob Kirby, Virginia lied about almost every aspect of her life, maintaining a charade to deceive everyone close to her. Sure, she might have been a good liar, but there's only so much that she could lie. However, even though the whole neighborhood began to doubt the stories that were being told by Virginia, no one in that entire town knew that Virginia McCulla had already committed an unthinkable crime. This is where we get into the details of what she did to her parents and how she executed this unforgivable crime. This woman poisoned both of her parents not with poison, but cunningly poisoned them with prescription medications. John, her father, fell victim to it very fast and succumbed to the effects of the poison relatively quickly. But her mother, Lois, she was still alive. And that's not even where this horrible crime ends. In what can only be described as a moment of horror, Virginia took things even further. She had no mercy. She was vile. After poisoning her mother, she then did not hesitate to end her mother's life by force. She violently struck Lois with a hammer, and if that wasn't enough, she then fatally stabbed her till she bled to death and wailed in pain. It was brutal and calculated, a sign that Virginia was willing to do whatever it took to keep her secrets hidden. Whatever debt it might have been, she surely was a wicked, selfish one herself to have been able to do something this cruel. Once she committed the murders, she knew she had to do something to protect herself. Because what she committed was a bigger crime with a much bigger price to pay than financial debt could have ever landed her in. Virginia then turned her attention to covering up the murders of her parents. She knew she needed to hide the evidence and concocted a plan so twisted and meticulous it would fool everyone around her, and it did, for 4 whole years. According to prosecutor Lisa Wilding, Virginia even went as far as building a makeshift tomb for her father. She carefully arranged blankets and family pictures over his body and hid his body away in a bedroom, creating what Wilding described as a tomb to make his presence seem almost peaceful. The sick woman thought it a good deed to have made a tomb after murdering her father. She had something planned for her mother's corpse as well, just not as fancy. Virginia had favorites. For her mother, Virginia wrapped the body in a sleeping bag and hid it in an upstairs wardrobe, left to remain undiscovered. After turning her house into a graveyard, Virginia acted as its sole occupant and guardian, and for years, she continued this bizarre double life with not an ounce of guilt for the terrible act she committed. Though Virginia's family was always in the good books of the townsfolk, she wasn't so much remembered as the most normal woman. People found her off but still found her to be friendly. Phil Sargent, who lived nearby, recalled, "The curtains were always drawn, and you couldn't see if anybody was in the house." What you'll find even more interesting is that Phil remembered her as a person with a dark sense of humor, an edge that might have hinted at her inner turmoil, yet not anywhere close to reality. Upon interviewing the neighbors, it was found that most people who happened to interact with her found her to be a funny woman, yet also irreverent. But not a single soul would have been able to identify the dark ideas that went through her mind. And so, for a whole of 4 years, Virginia McCulla maintained the facade. She also became quite adept at avoiding questions, spinning stories about her parents' whereabouts. She still insisted they were either traveling, too ill to see anyone, or busy with their affairs. Whenever family members or doctors reached out, Virginia would even cancel appointments, lie about travel plans, or continue lying about them being away on some holiday or trip. They were away all right, just not where people hoped they'd be so soon. Funny how she could tell all these lies and behind all of them satisfy her desperate attempts to keep control of her parents' finances. After their deaths, Virginia did not hesitate to spend their pensions and even ran up thousands in debt using their credit cards as well. By the time authorities would eventually uncover the truth, she had claimed nearly $200,000 in her parents' names, with almost $30,000 going to online gambling. But finally, in September 2023, there was some hope of getting this woman to pay for her crimes. It was during this time that Virginia's web of lies finally unraveled. It all began when Essex County Council's safeguarding team raised concerns. Her parents' doctor could no longer understand why they were out of reach, and his concerns got him curious. John McCulla hadn't picked up his medication in years, and appointments had been routinely canceled without any explanation at all. This led to him initiating a missing persons investigation. When officers initially questioned Virginia, she lied again, insisting her parents were simply traveling and would return in October. But her lies were now under scrutiny, and nobody wanted to hear any more of it. Finally, officers decided to investigate the house itself and put an end to her bullshit. Once the officers were in, it did not take them too long to uncover this scene straight out of a nightmare. As soon as they began to search the premises, Virginia finally broke. She confessed instantly, telling officers that her parents' bodies were in the house and that she had killed them. Authorities were horrified, but the shocking discoveries didn't end there. It wasn't just the bodies they happened to find. Documents found at the house painted a damning picture of Virginia's secret life of debt, gambling, and deceit. She had been digging herself into a financial hole, all while keeping her parents blissfully unaware, until, of course, in her desperation, she decided to eliminate them. Reflecting on the case, Detective Kirby described Virginia as an intelligent manipulator who took advantage of her parents' trust for her benefit. She was vile enough to kill her parents callously, without a thought for them or those who continue to suffer as a result of their loss. And he was right, don't you think? Virginia was then arrested, and in June 2023, she pled guilty to the murders. This October, she was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 36 years. Which, let's be honest, still doesn't seem like a big enough price to pay for the horrible crime. For the family and community, justice had been served, but the pain and loss were still fresh. In a statement, the McCulla family expressed their heartbreak, saying, "Dad enjoyed lots of hobbies. As we think of him, we remember the numerous jokes he used to tell us and the laughs he gave us. Our mom was kind, caring, and thoughtful." Not only did Virginia McCulla's actions tear apart an entire family, they also shattered the peace of a quiet community, a community that was believed to be a safe spot for everyone. The tragedy is indeed a haunting reminder of how manipulative human beings can be, no matter how innocent or naive they appear to be on the outside. We get to see the depths of human deceit and the lengths people will go to hide their deepest and darkest secrets. But one thing still remains a mystery. What led Virginia McCulla down this path? Surely it couldn't have just been simple financial desperation. It definitely had to be something much darker than that. We may never fully know, but for those left behind, the memory of John and Lois McCulla lives on. The poor, unfortunate parents who were taken too soon, their lives ended by the very person they loved and trusted most. And with that, we've come to the end of this tragic story. What are your opinions on the story of the girl who hid her parents' bodies? If you found this video interesting and informative, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and click on the tiny bell icon on the side to stay notified and updated on all of our upcoming content. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.